The moving truck pulled away from 1247 Pine Valley Drive on a sunny Tuesday morning in March. Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez stood in his new driveway, watching the big truck disappear around the corner. He wiped sweat from his forehead and looked at the boxes scattered across his front lawn. After 2 long years serving overseas, he was finally home for good. "Daddy, look at our new house," 8-year-old Emma called out as she ran around the front yard. Her long dark hair bounced as she jumped over the moving boxes. "It's so big. And we have our own swing set." Marcus smiled as he watched his daughter explore their new home. The house was everything they had dreamed of during those long nights when he was stationed far away. 2 stories, white paint, blue shutters, and a big backyard perfect for Emma to play in. The neighborhood looked safe and quiet, with neat lawns and well-kept houses lining both sides of the street. Sarah Rodriguez came out of the front door carrying a box marked "kitchen stuff." She set it down and stretched her back. Moving was hard work, but she was happy to finally have a real home for their family. "This is perfect, Marcus," she said, walking over to put her arm around her husband. "Emma will love it here. And look at all these nice houses. The neighbors must be friendly." Marcus nodded as he looked around Pine Valley Drive. Every house looked almost the same. Green lawns cut short and neat, driveways without oil stains, gardens with flowers planted in straight rows. It was the kind of place where people took pride in their homes. "The school is only 6 blocks away," Sarah continued, "and the real estate agent said this neighborhood has the best test scores in the whole city. Emma will get a great education here." Emma had found a butterfly in the garden and was trying to catch it with her hands. She giggled as it flew away from her again and again. Marcus watched his daughter and felt his heart grow warm. This was why he had served his country. To give his family a good life in a safe place. The Rodriguez family had been looking for the perfect home for over a year. While Marcus was overseas, Sarah had visited dozens of houses. Some were too small. Some were too expensive. Some were in neighborhoods that didn't feel right. But when she first saw this house on Pine Valley Drive, she knew it was the one. The house had 4 bedrooms, which meant Emma could have her own room and they would still have space for guests. The kitchen was big with new appliances. The living room had large windows that let in lots of sunlight. And the backyard had enough space for Emma to run around and play games. Marcus had seen pictures of the house while he was still stationed overseas. Sarah would video call him every day and show him different rooms. She would walk around with her phone, letting him see every corner of their future home. Even through the small phone screen, Marcus could tell this was where his family belonged. The neighborhood itself was called Pine Valley Estates. It was built about 15 years ago, and most of the families had lived there for a long time. The homes were all similar, but not exactly the same. Some had brick fronts, others had stone. Some had big oak trees in the front yard, others had decorative gardens. Marcus had been worried about fitting in. He had spent so much time on military bases where everyone understood military life. But Pine Valley seemed different. It seemed like a place where regular families lived normal lives, where kids rode bikes in the street and neighbors borrowed cups of sugar from each other. "I'm going to go introduce myself to the neighbors," Marcus told Sarah. "Maybe some of them can recommend a good pizza place for dinner." Sarah laughed. "After all those military meals, I think you just want any food that doesn't come from a can." Marcus walked across his front lawn toward the house next door. It was painted yellow with white trim. The lawn was cut so short it looked like carpet. Not a single weed could be seen anywhere. Even the edges where the grass met the sidewalk were perfectly straight. He knocked on the front door and waited. Through the window he could see someone moving around inside. After a few moments the door opened. A woman in her 50s stood in the doorway. She had short gray hair and wore a blue dress that looked like it had been ironed that morning. Her eyes moved up and down, looking at Marcus from his head to his feet. She did not smile. "Can I help you?" she asked. Her voice was cold and formal. "Hi there," Marcus said with a friendly smile. "I'm Marcus Rodriguez. My family and I just moved in next door. I wanted to introduce myself and say hello." The woman looked past Marcus toward his house. She could see Sarah carrying boxes and Emma playing in the yard. Her expression did not change. "I'm Patricia Hensley," she said. "I've lived here for 15 years. Marcus waited for her to say something else, but she just stood there staring at him. The silence felt uncomfortable. "Well, it's nice to meet you, Patricia," Marcus said, still trying to be friendly. "We're excited to be part of this neighborhood. It seems like a great place to raise a family. Patricia's eyes narrowed slightly. "We have rules here," she said. "This is a nice neighborhood, and we like to keep it that way." "I hope you understand that." Marcus was confused. "Of course," he said. "We want to be good neighbors. Is there anything specific I should know about?" Patricia looked at his moving boxes scattered across the front lawn. "Those boxes need to be cleaned up by tonight," she said. "We don't allow clutter to sit outside overnight." "It looks bad." Marcus glanced back at his lawn. There were maybe 20 boxes total, and they had only been there for a few hours. "Sure, no problem," he said. "We'll have everything inside by this evening." "And that truck," Patricia continued, pointing at Marcus's pickup truck in the driveway. "Is that going to be parked there permanently?" Marcus looked at his truck. It was a regular pickup truck, dark blue and clean. "Yes, that's my truck. Is there a problem with parking in my own driveway?" Patricia pressed her lips together in a thin line. "We'll see," she said. Then she stepped back and closed the door without saying goodbye. Marcus stood on the front porch for a moment, confused by the strange conversation. He had expected his neighbors to be friendly, maybe even helpful on moving day. Instead, he had met someone who seemed angry that he had moved in at all. He walked back to his own house thinking about Patricia's cold welcome. Maybe she was just having a bad day. Maybe she would be friendlier once she got to know them better. Marcus decided not to let one unfriendly neighbor ruin his family's excitement about their new home. But as he helped Sarah carry more boxes inside, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that Patricia Hensley was going to be a problem. 3 days after moving in, Marcus was drinking his morning coffee when he noticed Patricia Hensley standing at her front window. She was holding something in her hands and pointing it toward his house. When Marcus looked closer, he realized she was taking pictures of his truck with her phone. Sarah came into the kitchen carrying Emma's backpack. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "Our neighbor is taking pictures of our truck," Marcus said, still watching Patricia through the window. Sarah walked over and looked outside. Patricia was now taking pictures of their front yard from different angles. When she noticed Sarah and Marcus watching her, she didn't stop. Instead, she took more pictures. "That's weird," Sarah said. "Why would she do that?" Marcus shrugged, but he felt uncomfortable. Yesterday, Patricia had walked around his truck 3 times, looking at it closely. She had even bent down to look at his license plate and write something on a piece of paper. Emma ran into the kitchen with her school shoes in her hands. "Mommy, help me tie these," she said, sitting down on a chair. While Sarah helped Emma with her shoes, Marcus continued watching Patricia. She had finished taking pictures and was now walking around their front yard with a tape measure. She measured the distance from their fence to the sidewalk. Then she measured how far their mailbox was from the street. "What is she doing now?" Sarah asked, looking out the window again. "I have no idea," Marcus said, "but I don't like it." After Sarah left to take Emma to school, Marcus decided to go outside and talk to Patricia. He found her in her driveway, writing notes on a clipboard. "Good morning, Patricia," he said, walking over to the fence between their properties. Patricia looked up from her clipboard. "Your fence is 6 inches too high," she said without saying good morning back. Marcus looked at the fence. It was the same fence that had been there when they bought the house. "I'm sorry, what do you mean?" "HOA rules say fences can only be 4 feet high. Your fence is 4 feet and 6 inches. That's a violation." Marcus stared at her. "This fence was here when we bought the house. The previous owners built it." "Well, now it's your problem," Patricia said. "I'm filing a complaint with the Homeowners Association." Marcus tried to stay calm. "Look, Patricia, I think we got off on the wrong foot. We're not trying to cause any problems. We just want to be good neighbors." Patricia wrote something else on her clipboard. "Your truck is also a problem," she said. "What's wrong with my truck?" "Commercial vehicles aren't allowed to be parked in driveways overnight. HOA rules, Section 12, Paragraph 4. Marcus looked at his pickup truck. It was just a regular truck that he used for personal use. "It's not a commercial vehicle. It's my personal truck. It has a truck bed." "That makes it commercial," Patricia said. "You'll need to park it somewhere else." Marcus felt his patience running out. "Where am I supposed to park my truck?" "This is my driveway." "That's not my problem," Patricia said. "I'm just telling you the rules. If you don't follow them, you'll get fined." Marcus walked back to his house feeling angry and confused. He had never lived in a neighborhood with so many rules. On the military base, everyone followed orders, but they also helped each other out. This felt different. This felt like someone was looking for reasons to cause trouble. That afternoon, Marcus decided to read the HOA rules for himself. Sarah had a copy of them in a folder with all their house papers. He sat at the kitchen table and went through every page. The fence rule was real, but it said fences could be up to 4 feet in height, with a variance of up to 6 inches allowed for ground slope. Their fence was exactly within the allowed range. The vehicle rule was also real, but it only applied to vehicles used primarily for commercial purposes, including but not limited to delivery trucks, construction vehicles, and business vans. Personal pickup trucks were specifically allowed. Marcus realized that Patricia was either wrong about the rules or she was lying about them on purpose. The next morning, Marcus was getting ready for work when Sarah called him to the front window. "She's doing it again," Sarah said. Patricia was in their front yard with her tape measure and clipboard. This time she was measuring their mailbox and taking pictures of their house numbers. Marcus went outside. "Patricia, what are you doing in my yard?" "I'm documenting violations," she said without looking up from her measuring tape. "What violations?" "Your mailbox is 2 inches too far from the curb. And your house numbers are the wrong color." Marcus looked at his mailbox. It was in the exact same spot where the previous owners had put it. The house numbers were black, just like most of the other houses on the street. "Patricia, you need to get off my property," Marcus said firmly. "This is HOA business," she replied. "I have the right to document violations." "No, you don't. You don't have the right to come into my yard without permission." Patricia finally looked up at him. Her face was red with anger. "You people think you can just move into our neighborhood and do whatever you want," she said. "What do you mean, you people?" Marcus asked. Patricia didn't answer. She gathered up her tape measure and clipboard and walked back to her own yard. That evening, Marcus called the HOA office. A woman named Linda answered the phone. "Hi, this is Marcus Rodriguez on Pine Valley Drive. I have some questions about HOA rules." "Sure. How can I help you?" Marcus explained about Patricia's complaints and asked about the fence and vehicle rules. Linda was quiet for a moment. "Mr. Rodriguez, I have to tell you that we've received several complaints about your property from Mrs. Hensley. But honestly, most of them don't seem valid. Let me look at your file." Marcus waited while Linda looked through his information. "Your fence was approved by the previous HOA board 5 years ago," Linda said, "and personal pickup trucks are definitely allowed in driveways. Mrs. Hensley has filed complaints about several neighbors over the years. Most of them are not valid violations. So what should I do?" Marcus asked. "Just ignore her for now. If she continues to harass you, let us know. We've had to talk to her before about bothering other residents." Marcus felt a little better after talking to Linda, but he was still worried. Patricia seemed determined to find problems with everything his family did. The next day was Saturday. Emma was playing in the backyard while Sarah planted flowers in their front garden. Marcus was washing his truck in the driveway when he noticed Patricia watching them from her window again. A few minutes later, Patricia came outside with her clipboard. She walked straight to Sarah, who was kneeling in the flower bed. "You can't plant those flowers there," Patricia said. Sarah looked up, surprised. "I'm sorry, what?" "Those flowers. They're not on the approved plant list. Show rules say you can only plant approved species." Sarah stood up and brushed dirt off her knees. "These are just regular petunias. I bought them at the garden center. Doesn't matter. If they're not approved, they have to go." Marcus walked over from his truck. "Patricia, is there really a list of approved flowers?" "Section 15 of the HOA rules," she said. "Landscaping must be approved by the architectural committee." Marcus was getting tired of Patricia's constant complaints. "Did you approve the previous owner's landscaping? Because we haven't changed anything except adding a few flowers." Patricia wrote something on her clipboard. "I'm filing another complaint," she said. "You do that," Marcus said. "I'm calling the HOA office again." Patricia's face turned red. "You can't call them every time someone tries to enforce the rules." "I can call them when someone is harassing my family," Marcus replied. Patricia stomped back to her house and slammed her front door. Sarah looked at Marcus with worried eyes. "This isn't going to get better, is it?" Marcus put his arm around his wife. "We're not doing anything wrong, Sarah. She's the one with the problem." But as Marcus looked at Patricia's house, he saw her standing at the window again, still watching them. He had a bad feeling that things were going to get much worse before they got better. 2 weeks had passed since the flower incident, and Patricia Hensley's behavior was getting worse every day. Marcus kept a notebook where he wrote down every strange thing she did. The list was getting very long. On Monday, Patricia had called the city to complain that Marcus's truck was leaking oil. When the city inspector came out, he found no oil stains anywhere. Patricia argued with the inspector for 20 minutes, insisting that she had seen oil stains the day before. On Tuesday, Patricia had filed a noise complaint with the HOA because Emma was playing on her swing set at 7 o'clock in the evening. The complaint said that excessive recreational noise was disturbing the peace of the neighborhood. On Wednesday, Patricia had taken pictures of their garbage cans because they were still at the curb at 9 in the morning. She claimed this was a violation of the prompt waste removal policy. When Marcus checked the HOA rules, he found out garbage cans could stay at the curb until noon on pickup day. On Thursday, Patricia had measured the height of their grass with a ruler. She claimed it was too long and violated the lawn maintenance standards. Marcus had cut the grass just 2 days before, and it looked exactly like every other lawn on the street. But Friday was the worst day yet. Marcus was at work when his phone rang. It was Sarah, and she sounded upset. "Marcus, you need to come home," she said. "Patricia has lost her mind." "What happened?" Marcus asked, already grabbing his keys. "She installed security cameras," Sarah said, "and they're all pointing at our house." Marcus drove home as fast as he could. When he pulled into his driveway, he couldn't believe what he saw. Patricia had put 3 security cameras on her house. One was aimed at their front door. One was pointed at their driveway. The third one was focused on their backyard where Emma played. Sarah was standing in their front yard with her arms crossed, staring at the cameras. "She put them up this morning while you were at work," Sarah said. "I was hanging laundry in the backyard when I noticed her watching me through one of those cameras." Marcus looked at the cameras more closely. They were not small security cameras meant to protect Patricia's property. They were large cameras with zoom lenses, the kind used for surveillance, and they were all clearly focused on the Rodriguez family's house and yard. "This can't be legal," Marcus said. "I called the police," Sarah said. "They said as long as the cameras are on her property, she can point them wherever she wants. But they agreed it seemed strange." Marcus walked to the fence between their yards. Patricia was in her backyard adjusting one of the cameras. She was pointing it directly at Emma's swing set. "Patricia," Marcus called out. "What are these cameras for?" Patricia looked at him with a satisfied smile. "Security," she said. "I'm monitoring suspicious activity in the neighborhood." "Suspicious activity? What suspicious activity?" "People coming and going at all hours. Strange vehicles parked in driveways. Children making too much noise. I'm documenting everything." Marcus felt his anger rising. "You're spying on my family." "I'm protecting this neighborhood," Patricia said. "Someone needs to keep track of what goes on around here." That evening, Marcus called the HOA office again. This time, Linda sounded tired when she heard his voice. "Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry you're having these problems with Mrs. Hensley," she said. "But the cameras are on her property, so we can't force her to remove them." "But they're pointed directly at our house," Marcus said. "My daughter can't play in our own backyard without being watched by cameras." "I understand your frustration. Let me talk to our lawyer and see what we can do." The weekend was even worse. Patricia had added more cameras. Now she had 6 cameras total, and all of them were focused on the Rodriguez property. Marcus felt like a prisoner in his own home. On Saturday morning, Marcus was drinking coffee when he saw Patricia in her front yard with a lawn chair. She sat down in the chair and pulled out a pair of binoculars. Then she started watching their house through the binoculars while also monitoring her security cameras on a tablet computer. "This is insane," Sarah said when she saw what Patricia was doing. "She's literally sitting there watching us." Emma came into the kitchen for breakfast. "Daddy, why does the lady next door always stare at our house?" she asked. Marcus didn't know how to explain Patricia's behavior to his 8-year-old daughter. "Some people are just different, sweetheart. She scares me," Emma said quietly. "Yesterday when I was on my swing, she came to the fence and took pictures of me with her phone." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "She took pictures of you?" Emma nodded. "She said she was documenting something." "What does that mean?" Sarah and Marcus looked at each other with worry. Taking pictures of other people's children was crossing a line that should never be crossed. That afternoon, Marcus decided to talk to other neighbors to see if Patricia bothered them too. He walked down the street and knocked on doors. The first house belonged to an older couple named Bob and Mary Chen. They had lived on Pine Valley Drive for 10 years. "Oh yes, we know Patricia," Bob said when Marcus introduced himself. "She's complained about us many times over the years." "What kind of complaints?" Marcus asked. Mary rolled her eyes. "Everything you can imagine. Our tree branches hanging over the property line by 2 inches. Our dog barking at 6 in the morning when Bob takes him for a walk. The color of our front door being too bright." "Did she ever install cameras to watch your house?" Bob and Mary looked at each other. "No, that's new," Bob said. "But it doesn't surprise us. She's been getting worse over the past few years." The next house belonged to a young family with twin boys. The mother, Jennifer, answered the door. "Patricia Hensley," Jennifer said when Marcus asked about her. "That woman is crazy. She called Child Protective Services on us last year." Marcus was shocked. "Why?" "She claimed we were neglecting our children because we let them ride their bikes in the street. The CPS worker came out, saw that we live on a quiet residential street with no traffic, and closed the case immediately. But it was terrifying." "Has she done anything else?" "She follows our babysitter home sometimes," Jennifer said. "The babysitter is a teenager from down the street, and Patricia thinks she's suspicious because she has purple hair. We had to talk to Patricia's ex-husband to get her to stop." "Ex-husband?" "Yeah, Harold. He divorced her about 5 years ago. He still lives in town, nice guy. He says Patricia changed after she retired. She became obsessed with the neighborhood and started seeing problems everywhere." Marcus thanked Jennifer and continued down the street. Every neighbor he talked to had similar stories about Patricia. She had complained about everyone at some point. She had filed false reports with various city departments. She had harassed delivery drivers, mail carriers, and repair workers. But none of them had been targeted as intensely as the Rodriguez family. When Marcus got home, he found Sarah and Emma inside the house with all the curtains closed. "I can't take this anymore," Sarah said. "She's been watching our house all day. Emma is afraid to go outside." Marcus looked out the window through a gap in the curtains. Patricia was still sitting in her lawn chair with her binoculars and tablet. Even worse, she had set up a small table next to her chair with snacks and drinks. She was planning to watch their house for hours. "We need to do something," Marcus said. "This has gone way beyond normal neighbor problems." That night, Marcus called the police again. This time, he spoke to a sergeant named Williams. "Sir, I understand your frustration," Sergeant Williams said. "But unless she actually threatens you or comes onto your property, there's not much we can do. Watching your house from her own property isn't illegal. What about taking pictures of my daughter? If she's taking pictures from her own property of things she can see from public view, that's not illegal either." "I'm sorry." Marcus hung up the phone, feeling helpless. Patricia was making his family's life miserable, but apparently she wasn't breaking any laws. That night, Marcus had trouble sleeping. He kept thinking about Emma's scared face when she talked about Patricia taking her picture. He thought about Sarah closing all the curtains and feeling like a prisoner in their own home. Marcus had served 2 tours overseas to protect his country's freedom. Now he was home, and his own family didn't feel free in their own house because of one crazy neighbor. Something had to change, but Marcus didn't know what to do next. Little did he know that Patricia Hensley was about to make a mistake that would change everything. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon in April. Marcus was at work at the military base, and Sarah had taken the afternoon off to do some gardening. Emma was in the backyard, playing with her dolls under the big oak tree. Patricia had been in her usual spot all morning, sitting in her lawn chair with her binoculars and cameras watching the Rodriguez house. But today was different. Today, Patricia seemed more agitated than usual. She kept getting up from her chair and walking around her yard, talking to herself and gesturing toward the Rodriguez house. Sarah tried to ignore Patricia while she planted new flowers in her garden bed. But every time she looked up, Patricia was staring at her with an angry expression. The cameras were all pointed at Sarah, following her every movement around the yard. Around 2 o'clock, Sarah went inside to get a glass of water. Emma was still playing quietly under the tree, making her dolls have a tea party with plastic cups and saucers. That's when Patricia Hensley made the biggest mistake of her life. Patricia got up from her chair and walked to the fence between their properties. She stood there for a moment, watching Emma play. Then she opened the gate that connected their 2 backyards. The gate had been installed by the previous owners, so the neighbors could easily visit each other. Marcus and Sarah had never used it, but they hadn't thought to lock it. Patricia walked through the gate and into the Rodriguez backyard. Emma looked up from her dolls when she saw Patricia approaching. The little girl had been taught to be polite to adults, so she smiled and said hello. "Hi, Mrs. Hensley," Emma said. "Do you want to see my tea party?" Patricia didn't smile back. Instead, she looked around the backyard like she was searching for something. "Where are your parents?" she asked. "Mommy is inside getting water. Daddy's at work." Patricia nodded and moved closer to Emma. "I need to ask you some questions," she said. "About your father." Emma tilted her head, confused. "What kind of questions? What does your daddy do at work? Does he bring home any papers or files?" Emma didn't understand why Patricia was asking these questions. "He's a soldier," she said. "He helps protect people." "What kind of soldier? Does he work with secrets?" Now Emma was getting scared. Patricia's voice sounded angry and she was standing very close. "I don't know," Emma said quietly. "Does your father have friends who come to visit? People who look different? People who speak other languages?" Emma started backing away from Patricia. "I want my mommy," she said. "You need to answer my questions first," Patricia said, stepping closer to Emma. "This is important for the safety of our neighborhood." Emma dropped her plastic teacups and started crying. "I want my mommy," she called out loudly. Instead of backing away, Patricia grabbed Emma's arm. "Stop crying and listen to me," she said. "Your family is dangerous. People like you don't belong in this neighborhood." Emma tried to pull her arm away, but Patricia held on tighter. "You're hurting me," Emma cried. "I'm trying to protect everyone from your family," Patricia said. "You need to come with me so I can ask you more questions." Emma screamed as loud as she could. "Mommy, help me!" Inside the house, Sarah heard Emma's scream and dropped her water glass. She ran to the back door and saw Patricia holding Emma's arm and trying to drag her toward the gate. "Let go of my daughter," Sarah screamed, running across the backyard. Patricia saw Sarah coming and tightened her grip on Emma's arm. "This child needs to be questioned," Patricia said. "Her family is a threat to national security." Sarah reached them and grabbed Emma, pulling her away from Patricia. "Don't you ever touch my child again." Patricia's eyes were wild with anger. "You people moved into our neighborhood to spy on us," she said. "Your husband is probably a terrorist. I'm calling the FBI." Sarah picked up Emma and held her close. Emma was crying and shaking with fear. "You're insane," Sarah said to Patricia. "Stay away from my family." "I'm protecting America," Patricia said. "Your family is suspicious. Foreign spies always try to blend in by pretending to be normal families." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. "We're American citizens. My husband serves in the U.S. military." "That's just his cover story," Patricia said. "I've been watching you. I know what you're really doing here." Sarah turned and ran back to the house with Emma in her arms. Once they were inside, she locked the back door and called Marcus immediately. "Marcus, you need to come home right now," Sarah said when he answered. "Patricia just grabbed Emma and tried to take her." "What?" Marcus felt his blood turn cold. "What do you mean she grabbed Emma?" "She came into our backyard and started asking Emma questions about you. Then she grabbed Emma's arm and tried to drag her away. She said we're spies or terrorists or something. She's completely lost her mind." "I'm coming home right now," Marcus said. "Call the police immediately." "I'm calling them as soon as I hang up with you." Marcus left work immediately and drove home as fast as he could. His hands were shaking as he gripped the steering wheel. Someone had put their hands on his daughter. Someone had scared his little girl and tried to take her away. When Marcus got home, there was already a police car in the driveway. Officer Thompson was in the living room, taking notes while Sarah explained what had happened. Emma was sitting on the couch, still upset but no longer crying. "Daddy!" Emma ran to Marcus when she saw him. He picked her up and held her tight. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" Marcus asked. Emma nodded. "The lady scared me, Daddy. She said mean things about you and tried to make me go with her." Marcus felt rage building inside him, but he tried to stay calm for Emma's sake. He turned to Officer Thompson. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Well, technically, Mrs. Hensley did commit assault by grabbing your daughter," Officer Thompson said. "And attempted kidnapping could also apply since she tried to remove the child from your property. We'll need to talk to Mrs. Hensley and get her side of the story." "Her side of the story?" Sarah said angrily. "She grabbed our 8-year-old daughter and tried to drag her away while accusing us of being terrorists." I understand your anger, ma'am. We take this very seriously. Let me go talk to Mrs. Hensley now. Officer Thompson went next door to talk to Patricia. Through their front window, Marcus and Sarah could see Patricia gesturing wildly and pointing at their house. She seemed to be arguing with the police officer. After 20 minutes, Officer Thompson came back. Mrs. Hensley claims she was conducting a citizen's investigation, he said. She believes your family poses a security threat to the neighborhood. She says she was trying to protect the community by questioning your daughter. Marcus stared at the officer. She thinks we're security threats. Why? She mentioned that you're in the military, you have a truck, and people visit your house sometimes. She seems to think these are suspicious activities. Sarah laughed bitterly. Suspicious activities? He's a soldier, we own a truck, and our friends visit us. Those are normal things. I agree, ma'am. Mrs. Hensley's reasoning doesn't make sense. I'm going to file a report for assault and attempted kidnapping. You can press charges if you want to. Marcus looked at Sarah, then at Emma. His daughter was safe now, but she had been terrified. Patricia had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Yes, Marcus said firmly. We want to press charges. Officer Thompson nodded. I'll arrest Mrs. Hensley and take her to the station. She'll probably be released on bail later today, so you should be careful. Sometimes these situations escalate after arrests are made. As Officer Thompson went back to Patricia's house, Marcus hugged his wife and daughter close. He had thought Patricia was just an annoying neighbor with too much time on her hands. Now he realized she was something much more dangerous. Patricia Hensley was arrested that afternoon and charged with assault and attempted kidnapping. But as Officer Thompson had warned, her arrest only made her more angry and more determined to prove that the Rodriguez family was dangerous. The real nightmare was just beginning. Patricia Hensley was released on bail 6 hours after her arrest. She came home that evening angrier than ever. Instead of realizing she had made a terrible mistake, Patricia convinced herself that the Rodriguez family had somehow tricked the police. The next morning, Marcus went to work as usual, but he was worried about leaving Sarah and Emma alone. Before he left, he made sure all the doors and windows were locked. He also gave Sarah a whistle to blow if she needed help from the neighbors. I'll be fine, Sarah told him. She's been arrested. Surely she won't try anything else. But Sarah was wrong. Around 10 in the morning, while Emma was at school, Sarah was doing laundry when she heard a loud banging on the front door. She looked through the window and saw Patricia standing on the porch. Patricia looked wild and disheveled, like she hadn't slept all night. Sarah didn't open the door. Go away, Patricia, she called through the door. You're not supposed to be here. I know what you really are, Patricia shouted. I've figured it all out. You can't fool me anymore. I'm calling the police, Sarah said. Call them. When they hear what I have to say, they'll arrest your whole family. Sarah got her phone and dialed 911. While she was talking to the dispatcher, Patricia went around to the back of the house and started banging on the back door. This is my neighborhood, Patricia yelled. I've lived here for 15 years. I won't let foreign spies destroy everything I've worked for. The police arrived within 10 minutes. Officer Martinez, a different officer than the day before, found Patricia in the Rodriguez backyard trying to look through the windows. Ma'am, you need to come with me, Officer Martinez said. They're terrorists, Patricia said, pointing at the house. They're planning something. I found evidence. What evidence? Officer Martinez asked. Patricia pulled out her phone and showed him pictures she had taken with her zoom cameras. Look at this. The man has a military vehicle. And look at these people coming and going from their house. They're obviously meeting with other terrorists. Officer Martinez looked at the pictures. They showed Marcus's regular pickup truck and photos of neighbors who had come to visit, including Bob and Mary Chen from down the street and a pizza delivery driver. Ma'am, these are just normal pictures of normal activities, Officer Martinez said. You don't understand, Patricia said frantically. They're using code words. Yesterday I heard the little girl talking about a tea party. That's obviously a code name for a terrorist meeting. Officer Martinez realized that Patricia was having some kind of mental breakdown. Ma'am, I need you to come with me. You're not allowed to be on this property. Patricia resisted when Officer Martinez tried to lead her away. I'm a patriotic American, she screamed. I'm trying to protect this country. Why won't anyone listen to me? As Officer Martinez escorted Patricia back to her house, she continued yelling accusations about the Rodriguez family. Several neighbors came outside to see what was happening. Officer Martinez called for backup and also requested a mental health evaluation specialist. Patricia's behavior was clearly beyond normal neighbor disputes. When Marcus got home from work that afternoon, he found Sarah very upset. "She came back," Sarah said. "She was banging on our doors and windows, screaming about terrorists and spies. The police took her away again, but Marcus, I'm scared. She's not going to stop." Marcus held his wife while she cried. "Maybe we should consider moving," Sarah said. "This isn't worth it. Emma is having nightmares. I'm afraid to be in my own house." "We're not moving," Marcus said firmly. "This is our home." "We haven't done anything wrong. Patricia is the one with the problem." That evening, Marcus got a phone call from Officer Thompson, who had handled Patricia's arrest the day before. "Mr. Rodriguez, I wanted to update you on Mrs. Hensley's situation," Officer Thompson said. "She's been arrested again for violating the restraining order by coming onto your property. But there's something else you should know." "What?" "We had a mental health specialist evaluate her today. She's showing signs of paranoid delusions and obsessive behavior. The specialist recommended that she be held for a 72-hour psychiatric evaluation." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "So she's getting help?" "Well, that's the problem. Her ex-husband Harold came and posted bail again. He's very concerned about her behavior, but legally we can't force her to get treatment unless she's an immediate danger to herself or others. She grabbed my daughter and tried to take her away. How is that not being a danger to others?" "You're right, and that's why we're keeping the charges active. But the mental health system has rules about when someone can be committed against their will. Right now she's not quite meeting those criteria." After Marcus hung up, he felt more worried than ever. Patricia was clearly having mental problems, but she was still free to live next door to his family. The next day was Saturday. Marcus decided to work in his garage to keep busy and stay close to the house. Emma was playing in the living room where he could see her through the window. Around noon, Harold Hensley, Patricia's ex-husband, knocked on Marcus's front door. "Mr. Rodriguez? I'm Harold Hensley, Patricia's former husband. Could I talk to you for a few minutes?" Harold was a thin man in his 60s with kind eyes and a worried expression. Marcus invited him in. "I want to apologize for Patricia's behavior," Harold said. "What she did to your daughter was completely wrong. I'm horrified that she would grab a child." "Thank you for saying that," Marcus said. "But I have to ask, why did you bail her out if you think her behavior is wrong?" Harold sighed. "She's still the mother of my children even though we're divorced. I can't just abandon her when she's having a mental breakdown. But I'm trying to get her to see a psychiatrist. She refuses to admit there's anything wrong with her." "What happened to her?" "Your neighbor said she wasn't always like this." "It started about 3 years ago when she retired," Harold said. "She had worked as a bank manager for 30 years. Very organized, very detail-oriented. But when she retired, she didn't know what to do with herself. She became obsessed with the neighborhood, with rules, with controlling everything around her." Harold paused and looked out the window toward Patricia's house. "Then last year our son was deployed overseas. Patricia became convinced that the neighborhood was full of foreign agents, trying to gather information about military families. In her mind, every new neighbor is a potential spy." Marcus felt a chill. "Is that why she's focused on us?" "Because I'm in the military?" "Exactly. In her mind, you're the perfect target for foreign spies. She thinks they would try to get close to you to steal military secrets. She's completely lost touch with reality." "So what happens now?" Marcus asked. "I'm going to try one more time to get her to see a doctor voluntarily. If she won't, I'm going to petition the court to have her committed for evaluation. But that could take weeks." After Harold left, Marcus felt a little better knowing that someone in Patricia's family was trying to help her, but he was still worried about what she might do next. That night, around 11 o'clock, Marcus was woken up by his home security alarm. He jumped out of bed and looked out the window. Patricia was in his backyard again, but this time she had bolt cutters and was trying to cut through the fence. Marcus called 911 while Sarah woke up Emma and took her to the bathroom, which was the safest room in the house. What's your emergency?" "This is Marcus Rodriguez on Pine Valley Drive. My neighbor is in my backyard with bolt cutters trying to break through my fence. She's been arrested twice this week already for harassing my family. Units are on the way, sir. Stay inside and keep your family safe." Marcus watched from the window as Patricia cut through several fence boards. She was muttering to herself as she worked, occasionally stopping to take pictures with her phone. When the police arrived, They found Patricia had created a hole in the fence big enough to walk through. She was standing in Marcus's backyard, holding a flashlight and searching through their garbage cans. "Ma'am, drop the flashlight and put your hands where I can see them," Officer Williams called out. Patricia spun around, wild-eyed and confused. "They're hiding evidence," she said. "I found proof that they're not who they say they are." "What proof?" Officer Williams asked, approaching her carefully. Patricia held up a piece of paper she had taken from the garbage. "This receipt. It's from a Middle Eastern restaurant. They're obviously communicating with foreign agents through coded food orders." Officer Williams looked at the receipt. It was from a local Mediterranean restaurant that served falafel and hummus. Marcus and Sarah had ordered takeout from there the week before. "Ma'am, this is just a normal restaurant receipt," Officer Williams said. "You don't understand the codes," Patricia said frantically. "I've been studying their patterns. Every time they order from that restaurant, strange cars drive by the house." Officer Williams handcuffed Patricia and led her away. As she was put in the police car, she continued shouting about terrorist codes and foreign agents. This time, Patricia was held without bail. The judge decided that her repeated violations and escalating behavior made her too dangerous to release. But Marcus and Sarah didn't know that Patricia had already made one final, desperate plan. Before her arrest that night, she had made a phone call that would bring their nightmare to a terrifying climax. She had called the FBI and reported that she had discovered a terrorist. Marcus woke up Sunday morning feeling relieved for the first time in weeks. Patricia was finally in jail, and his family could have some peace. He made pancakes for Emma while Sarah slept in, trying to return to normal family life. At exactly 8 o'clock in the morning, Marcus heard cars pulling into his driveway. Lots of cars. He looked out the front window and felt his heart stop. 3 black SUVs and 2 police cars were parked outside his house. Men in dark suits and bulletproof vests were getting out of the vehicles. Some of them had FBI badges on their jackets. Others looked like they might be from Homeland Security. "Sarah," Marcus called urgently. "Get Emma and go to the back bedroom." Now Sarah came running downstairs. "What's wrong?" Before Marcus could answer, someone pounded on the front door with tremendous force. "FBI, open the door!" Marcus's military training kicked in. He stayed calm and thought quickly. This was obviously connected to Patricia's false accusations, but he needed to handle it carefully. "Any wrong move could make the situation worse. I'm coming to the door," Marcus called out. "I'm opening it slowly." Marcus opened the front door with his hands visible. 6 armed agents were standing on his porch with more positioned around his house. "Are you Marcus Rodriguez?" the lead agent asked. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. "Yes, sir. I'm Staff Sergeant Marcus Rodriguez, United States Army. I'm Agent Patterson with the FBI. We need to talk to you about some serious allegations that have been made against you and your family." Marcus stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "What kind of allegations?" "We received a report that you and your family are involved in terrorist activities and that you're planning an attack on military installations." Marcus felt dizzy. Patricia's insane accusations had reached the FBI. "Agent Patterson, these allegations are completely false. I'm a loyal soldier who has served 2 tours overseas defending this country. We understand you're in the military, Mr. Rodriguez, but we have to investigate all terrorism reports regardless of the source. We need to search your house and question your family." "Of course," Marcus said. "I have nothing to hide. But I need you to know that these accusations are coming from my neighbor, who has been arrested 3 times this week for harassing my family. She's having a mental breakdown and making up crazy stories." Agent Patterson's expression didn't change. "We're aware of the source of the report, Mr. Rodriguez, but we still have to follow protocol." "Is your family inside?" "Yes, my wife and 8-year-old daughter. We're going to need to separate you during the search and questioning." "This is standard procedure," Marcus nodded. He knew that cooperation was his best option, even though the whole situation was terrifying. Agent Patterson called to his team. "Johnson, take Mr. Rodriguez to the first SUV for questioning. Martinez, escort the family members to the second vehicle. Thompson, begin the house search." As agents entered his house, Marcus heard Emma crying and Sarah trying to comfort her. His heart broke knowing that his little girl was being scared again because of Patricia's lies. Agent Johnson was younger than Agent Patterson and seemed less intimidating. He sat with Marcus in the SUV and pulled out a recording device. "Mr. Rodriguez, I want you to know that you're not under arrest. We're just gathering information, but I do need to read you your rights in case anything you say could be used in a legal proceeding." After reading Marcus his Miranda rights, Agent Johnson began asking questions. "How long have you lived at this address?" "About 6 weeks." "Have you had any contact with foreign nationals since moving here?" "Only the normal interactions anyone would have. The pizza delivery guy might be from another country, but I don't ask people about their citizenship when they bring me food." Agent Johnson smiled slightly. "Tell me about your military service." Marcus explained his 2 deployments, his current assignment at the local base, and his security clearance level. Agent Johnson took detailed notes. "Have you brought any classified materials to your home?" "No, sir. That would be a serious violation of military law. I would never do that. What about weapons? Do you have any firearms in your house?" "I have 1 personal handgun, properly registered and stored in a gun safe according to all local and federal laws." The questioning continued for 2 hours. Agent Johnson asked about Marcus's friends, his family's activities, their travel history, and their daily routines. Marcus answered every question honestly and completely. Meanwhile, other agents were searching every inch of the Rodriguez house. They went through closets, drawers, computers, and even Emma's toy boxes. They were professional and careful, but it was still invasive and frightening. In the second SUV, Sarah was being questioned by Agent Martinez while Emma sat next to her, holding her mother's hand tightly. "Mrs. Rodriguez, has your husband ever brought home any work materials that seemed unusual?" "No, never." Marcus is very careful about military regulations. He doesn't even talk about his work unless it's something he's allowed to discuss. "Have you noticed any unusual people watching your house or following your family?" Sarah almost laughed. "Yes, actually. Our neighbor Patricia has been watching us constantly for weeks. She installed security cameras pointed at our house and sits outside with binoculars watching us all day." Agent Martinez looked up from her notes. "Tell me more about this neighbor." Sarah explained Patricia's escalating harassment, the false HOA complaints, the assault on Emma, and the break-in the night before. As she talked, Agent Martinez's expression changed from suspicion to understanding. "So you're saying this neighbor has been stalking your family and making false accusations?" "Yes. She's convinced that we're foreign spies or terrorists. She's been arrested 3 times this week. Her own ex-husband says she's having a mental breakdown." After 3 hours, the search was complete. The agents had found nothing suspicious. No classified documents, no weapons except Marcus's properly registered handgun, no evidence of any illegal activity. Agent Patterson called Marcus back to the house to talk privately. "Mr. Rodriguez, I owe you an apology," Agent Patterson said. "After talking to your family and searching your home, it's clear that the allegations against you are completely false. Your neighbor appears to have serious mental health issues and has been making up stories about you." Marcus felt relief wash over him. "Thank you for being thorough, Agent Patterson. I understand you had to investigate. We've also been in contact with your commanding officer at the base. He speaks very highly of you and confirms that you're a model soldier with an excellent record. What happens now? We'll close this investigation and note in our files that the allegations were unfounded. We'll also coordinate with local police to make sure your neighbor faces appropriate charges for filing false reports with federal agencies." Agent Patterson paused and looked at Marcus seriously. "I want you to know that we take false terrorism reports very seriously. Your neighbor has wasted significant government resources and put your family through unnecessary trauma. There will be federal charges filed against her." As the FBI agents packed up their equipment and prepared to leave, neighbors began coming out of their houses. Word had spread quickly through Pine Valley Drive that the FBI was investigating the Rodriguez family. Marcus could see people pointing and whispering. Agent Patterson noticed Marcus looking at the neighbors. "Don't worry about them," he said. "We'll make sure the neighborhood knows that you've been cleared of all suspicions. False accusations like this can damage reputations, and we don't want that to happen to your family." Before leaving, Agent Patterson gave Marcus his business card. "If you have any more problems with your neighbor or anyone else making false reports, call me directly. We don't tolerate people who abuse the system to harass innocent families." As the FBI vehicles drove away, Marcus went back into his house. Sarah and Emma were sitting on the couch, still shaken by the experience. "Is it over?" Sarah asked. "The FBI investigation is over," Marcus said. But Patricia is going to face serious federal charges for making false terrorism reports. She's going to prison for a long time. Emma looked up at her father with big, scared eyes. "Daddy, why did the lady next door tell lies about us?" Marcus sat down and put his arm around his daughter. "Sometimes people get sick in their minds, sweetheart. It makes them see things that aren't real and believe things that aren't true. The lady next door is sick and she needs help. Will she come back and scare us again?" "No, Emma. She's going to be in jail for a very long time. And even after that, she won't be allowed to come near our family ever again." That evening, Harold Hensley came to their door again. He looked exhausted and ashamed. "Mr. Rodriguez, I heard about what happened today," Harold said. "I am so deeply sorry that Patricia involved the FBI. I had no idea she had called them." "It's not your fault, Harold," Marcus said. "You tried to get her help. She's going to federal prison now," Harold said sadly. "The FBI told me she'll probably get 5 to 10 years for filing false terrorism reports. Her lawyer says there's no way to avoid prison time." Marcus felt sorry for Harold, but he was also relieved. Patricia would finally be stopped from hurting his family. "I want you to know that I'm selling Patricia's house," Harold continued. "I never want your family to have to worry about her coming back. When she gets out of prison, she'll have to live somewhere else." The standoff lasted 4 hours and 23 minutes. Marcus would remember that exact time for the rest of his life because those were the longest 4 hours his family had ever experienced. It all started at 6 in the morning on the day after the FBI investigation. Marcus was getting ready for work when Sarah called him from the kitchen window. "Marcus, there are police cars outside again," she said, her voice tight with worry. Marcus looked out the front window and saw 2 police cars parked across the street. But these weren't there for Patricia this time. They were there because Patricia had barricaded herself inside her house and was refusing to come out. Officer Thompson walked over to Marcus's front door and knocked gently. "Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry to bother you so early," he said when Marcus opened the door. "We have a situation with Mrs. Hensley. She's locked herself in her house and says she won't come out until she talks to the FBI agents who were here yesterday." "What do you mean she won't come out?" "She's supposed to be transferred to federal custody this morning for the terrorism charges. When the marshals came to arrest her, she barricaded herself inside and started making demands." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What kind of demands?" "She wants to talk to Agent Patterson. She claims she has new evidence that your family is dangerous. She says if the FBI doesn't listen to her, something terrible will happen to the neighborhood." Through Patricia's front window, Marcus could see movement inside the house. Patricia appeared to be pacing back and forth, gesturing wildly as she talked on the phone. "Who is she talking to?" Marcus asked. "She called the FBI tip line again this morning. She told them she has proof that yesterday's investigation was fake and that the real terrorists are still planning an attack. The FBI has to send someone out to talk to her, even though they know her claims are false." Marcus shook his head. "So what do we need to do?" "We'd like you and your family to stay inside until this is resolved. Mrs. Hensley has been looking out her windows at your house all morning." "We don't want to take any chances." Marcus went back inside and explained the situation to Sarah and Emma. Emma's face went pale when she heard that the scary neighbor lady was causing trouble again. "I thought she was in jail," Emma said quietly. "She was, sweetie. But now they need to take her to a different jail. Don't worry, we're safe inside our house." Around 9 o'clock, Agent Patterson arrived with 2 other FBI agents. Marcus watched through his window as they set up a command post in the street. More police cars arrived, along with a negotiation specialist. The neighborhood was in chaos. Police had blocked off both ends of Pine Valley Drive. News trucks were starting to arrive after someone posted about the situation on social media. Neighbors were standing in their yards trying to see what was happening. Agent Patterson came over to update Marcus on the situation. "Mrs. Hensley is claiming she has video evidence that your family met with foreign agents yesterday," Agent Patterson said. "She says the FBI agents who came to your house yesterday were fake and that the real FBI needs to investigate." "That's completely insane," Marcus said. "You were here. You searched our house. You know we're innocent." "Of course we know that. But she's become completely disconnected from reality. The negotiation specialist thinks she might hurt herself if we don't handle this carefully." Around noon, the situation took a frightening turn. Patricia appeared at her front window holding what looked like a weapon. Police officers immediately took defensive positions behind their cars. "All units, suspect is armed," came over the police radio. "Repeat, suspect is armed." Marcus moved Sarah and Emma to the back bedroom, the farthest point from Patricia's house. Emma was crying again, and Sarah was trying to comfort her while fighting back her own tears. "I want to leave," Sarah said to Marcus. "I can't do this anymore. Every time we think it's over, something else happens." Marcus held his wife close. "I know this is hard, but we can't let one sick person drive us out of our home. She's the one with the problem, not us." The negotiation specialist, Dr. Williams, spent 2 hours trying to talk Patricia into putting down her weapon and coming out of the house. Through a loudspeaker, Marcus could hear parts of their conversation. "Patricia, this is Dr. Williams. I'm here to listen to what you have to say." Finally, someone who will listen to the truth. "The people next door are terrorists. I have proof." "I'd like to hear about your proof, Patricia. But first, I need you to put down whatever you're holding so we can talk safely." "I'm not putting down anything. You people let terrorists live right next to me. I'm protecting myself." Dr. Williams was patient and professional, but Patricia's responses became more and more irrational as time went on. She accused the FBI of being part of a conspiracy. She claimed that Marcus was secretly communicating with enemies overseas. She insisted that Emma's children's toys were actually sophisticated spying equipment. "The little girl has a walkie-talkie toy," Patricia said over the loudspeaker. "She's obviously using it to send coded messages to foreign agents." Marcus almost laughed despite the serious situation. Emma's toy walkie-talkie had a range of about 50 feet and mostly just made beeping sounds. Around 3 o'clock, Harold Hensley arrived. The police let him through the barricade because they hoped he might be able to talk Patricia into surrendering. Harold used a police loudspeaker to talk to his ex-wife. "Patricia, it's Harold. Please come out and talk to me. You need help and these people want to help you." "Harold? Harold, you have to tell them. You know the neighbors are dangerous. You've seen the evidence I collected." "Patricia, there is no evidence because they're not dangerous. They're a normal family with a little girl. You're sick and you need to see a doctor. I'm not sick. Everyone else is blind. Can't you see what's happening?" Harold tried for an hour to convince Patricia to come out, but she refused to listen to him either. Finally, around 4:30 in the afternoon, Patricia made a critical mistake. She opened her front door and stepped onto her porch, still holding what the police now could see was a kitchen knife. "I'll prove to all of you that they're terrorists," she shouted, pointing the knife toward Marcus's house. "I'll search their house myself and find the evidence." Patricia started walking across her front yard toward the Rodriguez house. She was moving slowly but determinedly, still holding the knife. "Suspect is moving toward the victim's residence," the police radio crackled. "All units be ready." Marcus felt his heart racing as he watched Patricia approach his house. He moved Sarah and Emma into the bathroom and locked the door. "Nobody comes in here except me," he told them, "no matter what happens." But Patricia never made it to the Rodriguez house. When she stepped onto Marcus's front lawn, 6 police officers surrounded her. The lead officer had a taser ready. "Ma'am, drop the knife and get on the ground," Officer Thompson commanded. Patricia looked around at the officers surrounding her. For the first time in weeks, she seemed to realize the seriousness of her situation. "I was just trying to protect everyone," she said, her voice suddenly small and confused. "I know you were, ma'am, but you need to drop the knife right now." Patricia looked at the knife in her hand as if she was seeing it for the first time. Then she looked at Marcus's house, where she could see him watching from the window. "They seemed like such a nice family," she said quietly. "But they're not. They can't be. Nice families don't move into my neighborhood. Ma'am, please drop the knife." Patricia's hand started shaking. The knife fell from her fingers and clattered onto the concrete driveway. She sank to her knees and began crying. "I just wanted to keep everyone safe," she sobbed as Officer Thompson handcuffed her. "I just wanted my neighborhood to stay the same." As Patricia was loaded into the police car, she looked one last time at the Rodriguez house. Emma was now standing at the front window watching the police take Patricia away. For a brief moment, Patricia seemed to see Emma clearly for the first time. Not as a threat or a spy, but as a scared little girl who had been hurt by her actions. "I'm sorry," Patricia whispered, but no one except Officer Thompson heard her. The police car drove away, and Patricia Hensley disappeared from Pine Valley Drive forever. Marcus walked outside and looked around at his neighborhood. Police cars were leaving. News trucks were packing up their equipment. Neighbors were slowly going back to their houses. Agent Patterson approached Marcus one final time. Mr. Rodriguez, Mrs. Hensley will be evaluated by psychiatric professionals and then transferred to federal prison. Given her mental state and the seriousness of her crimes, she'll likely serve 8 to 10 years. After that, she'll be required to live in a supervised facility. She will never be allowed to contact you or your family again. Thank you, Agent Patterson. I hope she gets the help she needs, so do I. And Mr. Rodriguez, you and your family handled this situation with remarkable grace. A lot of people would have moved away or retaliated. You did the right thing by letting the system work. That evening, Marcus, Sarah, and Emma sat on their front porch for the first time since moving to Pine Valley Drive. They watched the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. They listened to children playing in other yards. They felt the peace of being safe in their own home. Emma leaned against her father's shoulder. Daddy, is the scary lady ever coming back? No, sweetheart. She's going to live somewhere else now, where people... 6 months later, Marcus Rodriguez stood in his backyard watching Emma play on her swing set. The hole Patricia had cut in their fence had been repaired and painted. New flowers bloomed in Sarah's garden. Life on Pine Valley Drive had returned to normal, but the Rodriguez family would never forget what they had been through. Patricia Hensley had been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for filing false terrorism reports, assault, attempted kidnapping, and stalking. The judge had been particularly harsh because Patricia's actions had wasted significant government resources and traumatized a military family. During her trial, Patricia's lawyers had argued that she was mentally ill and needed treatment rather than prison. The judge agreed that Patricia had serious mental health issues, but ruled that her crimes were too serious to ignore. Mrs. Hensley's paranoid delusions do not excuse the fact that she terrorized an innocent family and made false reports to federal authorities, Judge Martinez had said during sentencing. While she will receive psychiatric treatment in prison, she must also face the consequences of her actions. Patricia's house had been sold by Harold, and the new owners were a young couple with twin babies. Marcus and Sarah had helped them move in, and they had become good friends. The new neighbors, Mike and Jennifer Torres, couldn't believe the story of what had happened with Patricia. We looked at this house 6 months ago when it first went on the market, Jennifer told Sarah one afternoon while their children played together. The real estate agent told us about the neighbor situation, but said it had been resolved. We had no idea how serious it was. The Torres family brought new life to Patricia's old house. They painted it cheerful colors, planted a vegetable garden, and set up playground equipment in the backyard. Emma loved having playmates next door, and the sound of children laughing had replaced Patricia's angry shouting. The HOA had also made significant changes after the Patricia incident. Linda, the HOA manager, had implemented new policies to prevent harassment between neighbors. We never want something like this to happen again, Linda had told Marcus during a neighborhood meeting. We've created a new process for handling complaints that includes mediation and mental health resources for residents who might be struggling. The HOA board had also established a fund to help military families in the neighborhood, inspired by the Rodriguez family's experience. They organized regular community events to help neighbors get to know each other better and reduce the kind of suspicion and isolation that had contributed to Patricia's paranoid behavior. Marcus's commanding officer, Colonel Stevens, had used the incident as a teaching moment for other military families. What happened to Sergeant Rodriguez could happen to any of you, Colonel Stevens told a gathering of military families. When you move into civilian neighborhoods, you represent not just yourselves but the entire military community. But you also have the right to live peacefully with your families. If you ever experience harassment or discrimination, report it immediately. Don't try to handle it alone. The military base had also created new protocols for supporting service members who faced civilian harassment. They established partnerships with local police departments and legal aid organizations to provide rapid assistance when military families were targeted. Emma had recovered well from her traumatic experience, thanks to counseling and the support of her parents and community. She still sometimes had nightmares about the scary lady, but they were becoming less frequent. The therapist says Emma is remarkably resilient, Sarah told Marcus one evening. She says that children often recover from trauma better than adults because they're naturally optimistic and trusting. Emma had made new friends in the neighborhood and at school. She especially loved playing with the Torres twins next door. Sometimes Marcus would watch her playing and marvel at how normal and happy she seemed. Despite everything she had been through, Sarah had also healed from the experience, though she remained more cautious than before. She had installed a home security system and always checked to make sure doors and windows were locked, but she was no longer afraid to work in her garden or let Emma play outside. "I've learned that most people are good," Sarah told Marcus one day. "Patricia was sick and what she did was terrible. But look at how many people helped us. The police, the FBI, our neighbors, the HOA. When something bad happens, there are always more good people than bad people." The other neighbors on Pine Valley Drive had been incredibly supportive during and after the crisis. Bob and Mary Chen had brought meals to the Rodriguez family during the worst days. Jennifer Williams, the mother with twin boys, had offered to babysit Emma whenever Marcus and Sarah needed time alone. Even neighbors who barely knew the Rodriguez family had sent cards and flowers. "This whole experience brought our neighborhood closer together," Bob Chen had said at a recent block party. "We all realize we need to look out for each other and not take our peaceful community for granted." Harold Hensley had stayed in touch with Marcus and Sarah, checking on them regularly and expressing his continued remorse for Patricia's behavior. He had used the money from selling Patricia's house to pay for her legal defense and psychiatric treatment. "She's getting help now," Harold had told Marcus during their last conversation. "The doctors say she has a form of paranoid personality disorder that got worse after she retired. They think the medication and therapy will help her, but it will take years." Harold had also established a small scholarship fund at the local elementary school in honor of Emma and other children who had been affected by adult conflicts. He wanted to do something positive to balance out the harm Patricia had caused. The incident had attracted national attention when a military family advocacy group wrote about it in their newsletter. The story spread on social media and was eventually covered by several news outlets as an example of how mental illness and neighborhood disputes could escalate into serious crimes. Marcus had been interviewed by a reporter from Military Times magazine who was writing about harassment of service members and their families. "The most important thing people should understand is that we're all Americans," Marcus had told the reporter. "It doesn't matter if you're military or civilian, what color your skin is, or where your family came from originally. We all deserve to live peacefully in our own homes." The article had generated hundreds of supportive messages from military families around the country who had experienced similar harassment. Many of them shared their own stories of being targeted by neighbors who viewed them with suspicion or hostility. One letter particularly touched Marcus. It was from a Navy family in California whose neighbor had accused them of being foreign spies because the father had been born in the Philippines, even though he was a naturalized U.S. citizen and had served in the Navy for 15 years. "Reading your story made us feel less alone," the letter said. "It's hard when people question your loyalty to the country you serve. Thank you for speaking out about this issue." Marcus had also received a commendation from his commanding officer for the professional way he had handled the situation. Sergeant Rodriguez demonstrated exceptional restraint and judgment during a prolonged period of civilian harassment, the commendation read. His conduct reflects great credit upon himself, his family, and the United States Army. As Marcus watched Emma playing in their backyard on this peaceful summer evening, he reflected on everything his family had been through. The experience had been traumatic and frightening, but it had also shown them how strong they were as a family and how much support they had in their community. Emma ran over to him, breathless from playing. "Daddy, look what I found." She held up a small butterfly that had landed on her hand. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Marcus said, smiling at his daughter's excitement over such a simple thing. "Remember when I was trying to catch butterflies the day we moved in?" Emma asked. "That was before the scary lady got sick and started being mean to us." Marcus was amazed at how Emma had processed what happened to them. She understood that Patricia had been sick, not evil. She didn't hate Patricia or feel angry about what had happened. She had simply accepted it as something difficult that they had gotten through together as a family. "I'm glad we stayed in this house, Daddy," Emma said, carefully releasing the butterfly. "I like it here. And our new neighbors are really nice." "I'm glad we stayed too," Marcus said, putting his arm around his daughter. Sarah came outside carrying glasses of lemonade for all of them. She sat down on the porch steps and watched Marcus and Emma in the garden. "What are you two talking about?" she asked. "Emma was just telling me she's glad we didn't move away," Marcus said. Sarah smiled. I'm glad too. This is our home. We worked hard to get here, and we deserve to enjoy it. As the sun began to set over Pine Valley Drive, the Rodriguez family sat together in their backyard, grateful for their safety, their home, and each other. They had faced their worst nightmare and come through it stronger than before. In her prison cell 300 miles away, Patricia Hensley was taking medication that helped clear her mind for the first time in years. She was participating in therapy and slowly beginning to understand how sick she had been and how much harm she had caused. Sometimes Patricia would lie awake at night thinking about the little girl,